Every so often, I decide to do my podcast episode by myself. I call it flying solo, and there is a reason for it. There's certain information that I want to share that I just want to get out to market as quickly as possible. Today's topic has to do with getting on podcast shows. Hi, this is Kathleen Gage with the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. And I've been running my show for a few years now. Before it was Vegan Visibility, it was called Power Up for Profits. I made a rebranding of my business, so I changed the name of the show.
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
In the change with the name, I also changed somewhat what my requirements, not somewhat, I did change the requirements of what I look for in my guests. And the number one requirement, because it is called Vegan Visibility, which should give people a clue as to who the market is that anybody who comes on my show must be 100% void of all animal and dairy. Now, I've done episodes before and people go, oh, that's great information. And yet a lot of people don't pay attention to some very common sense things to do when you're trying to get on podcast shows. The idea for this particular show came to me after an interview I recently did where I was a featured expert on a podcast. And the host asked, what's one of the best ways to get visibility for you and your business? And I said, get on podcast shows. However, there are certain guidelines you want to follow in order to be more effective in finding the shows and getting on the shows. Now, in my case, I look for people who are 100% void of animal and dairy. On the Vegan Visibility Show, we don't necessarily talk about nutrition. However, I want people who are aligned with the vegan lifestyle and the vegan message, vegan businesses, because there are people who have these kind of businesses that are of the vegan persuasion, if you will, and they really enjoy hearing from other vegans. And inevitably, I have people who say, well, I still eat cheese, or I eat eggs, or I eat honey. And if you're 100% vegan, you don't consume any of those things. So it's just a guideline. It's part of the branding. It's part of what I feel I'm aligned with and want to bring to my market. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you 3 things to do in order to have more success in getting on shows. The first thing, which really isn't a tip, is just do it. Go out and start looking for the opportunities. And you might be wondering, where do I find those opportunities? Before you start looking for the opportunities, decide what your message is going to be. And a great way to really fine-tune your message is to put together what's called a one sheet. It's an expert one sheet, it's a speaker one sheet, and it can actually be more than one page of information. But I'm going to show you, for those of you that are watching, you'll see what the one sheet looks like. But here's a real simple document. And this is actually a 2-page document where on the second page, I actually have proof that I have experience. So depending on the show, a host may or may not require that you have experience to be on their show. I've had plenty of people on my show who it was actually their first time, and they had such great information, and I found them by way of LinkedIn. Maybe I read an article about them. Maybe I saw that they had a book, and they had never been on a show, and I invited them onto mine. They said, well, I don't have a lot of experience. It's like maybe not being on podcast shows, but you're aligned with the message. So the reason for the one sheet is it actually contains all your very important information in one place. You can have hyperlinks. If you put a PDF together, you can have hyperlinks, and those hyperlinks can go directly to an area where they can download your images, they can download your bio, they can download your logo, things of that nature. But on the one sheet, you have an About You section. The About You section should be what is enticing enough for people to be excited about having you on the show. That also helps you to fine-tune your message. So what you want to think in terms of is, who is the audience that you would be a great fit for, and then write for that particular audience as you put your bio together. And also on mine, you'll notice I've got the image for my podcast show, Vegan Visibility, this one. And then I've got an image for my plant-based eating for health show. That show does focus on health and nutrition. That show does focus on plant-based eating. And that show also requires that my guest be 100% void of animal and dairy. I don't support the message of people eating animals. That's just my own thing. Now, for you, as you're going out looking for opportunities, maybe the show host won't be that rigid. I happen to be, and I don't cross that line. And I've had people who have gotten upset with that. I've had people who have said, you don't know what you're doing. And it's like, yes, I do know what I'm doing. I'm very clear on who I want on my show. The reason for the second page with the logos of places that I've spoken, shows that I've been on, and also links to where people can find more information is because, again, that actually supports the fact that I do have experience. So that's the number one thing. The next thing that you want to look at in finding shows is you can go to Apple Podcast, you can go to Amazon Podcast, Google Podcast. There are a number of locations you can go to, and you can do a search on keywords that align with what you're doing. For example, if I'm looking to get on shows that are about the vegan message, all I have to do is go to Apple Podcast and put in vegan marketing, let's say. I want to find shows that want to hear about how to market a vegan business. I put in vegan marketing and a number of shows will come up. I happen to know a lot of the hosts, but that's a way that I can find great opportunities. The next thing to do is actually listen to a few episodes. Don't just blindly go out and try to get on a show. Listen to what the show is about, because you might find out that the host never has guests. I have a good friend, Bonnie Frank, who flies solo all the time. She does not have people on her podcast. And she has had people who approach her saying, I've listened to your show, I love your show, and I know I would be a great fit. Right there, she knows they have not listened to her show. You also want to make sure when you're sending out an email message that you have all the typeface the same size and the same type, because I've received messages, Dear Kathleen, and Kathleen is really large and the rest of the type is really small. Well, it's obviously a template they're using. They haven't changed any of the information, and they're trying to get on my show telling me how much they love my show. The whole point of this particular episode is to really encourage you to go out and look for opportunity, but it's also to encourage you to be prepared. When you approach a host, you want to make sure that you know a little something about the show, something about the host, and what you bring to the experience. And it's really about their viewers and their listeners more than it is about you. Nobody cares about us. They care that their audience is going to be entertained, educated, informed, whatever it may be. So with that, I encourage you, go out and look for opportunities and put your one sheet together. Really important that you know what you bring to the experience. The next thing is look for shows that are aligned with your message. And the next thing is do your outreach. Now, you don't want to just do one or two times to outreach. You want to make that a consistent part of your marketing, because I actually have a program where it's called the 100 Club, and I also have the podcast Rockstar Club, and I teach people how to get on a lot of shows within a very short period of time. If you're doing a book launch, what better than to have a lot of shows during a 1 or 2 week period that are airing show after show after show after show. Pretty soon people will be saying, I see you everywhere. Another insider tip when you're going to get on a show is to actually let the host know that you'd be happy to promote the show. Most hosts will give you the permalink to the episode. Myself, I give my guests a lot of different marketing material they can choose from to share with their audience. I give them images, I give them blog posts, I give them the show notes, I give them tweets, I give them just about anything that they need in order to promote the episode. If somebody really goes out of their way to promote, I appreciate that. And I also appreciate when they go and they leave a review. Shows get better rankings, especially with Apple Podcasts. If you have reviews and ratings, you get higher rankings. So if you're on a show, why not leave a review for that particular show. Not only will the host appreciate it, it helps with their rankings, and your name is out there in another way. This is Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility, encouraging you. Go out, look for opportunity. There's plenty of opportunity out there, and be prepared for the opportunity, because luck is when opportunity and preparedness meet. This is Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility, inviting you. Visit veganvisibility.com. That's veganvisibility.com, and check out what I do. And if you're a fit for my show, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.